Hey everybody, it's Amy Fox with Work in Progress Texas. I'm live here in our Facebook group with my good friend Chrystal, and I am really pumped to talk about today's topic, which is kind of all around and encompassing a little bit of alcohol, right? We've kind of had some conversations in the past, but I wanted to bring on an expert, somebody who is around it, who has a story around it, and is helping people find, I guess, their relationship with alcohol and what that looks like. And you'll want to stick around towards the end because we're going to share some best practices. Because even if you're somebody who is not really considering removing alcohol completely from your life, we certainly have some tips and tricks to make sure you can kind of find that balance. Because obviously in our Facebook group and in our coaching business, we're helping people lose weight. And certainly alcohol can be a barrier, and it can also prevent people from getting to their goals depending on what your relationship is with alcohol. Chrystal and I connected through Instagram, and funny enough, we were actually in the same city. So it's kind of cool when life brings you together with people and they're actually local and you're like, hey, cool, we don't live that far from each other right now, which is kind of awesome. So it's been fun to get to know her and see and watch how she's serving other people in her community. And we're excited to bring her on here to share her with all y'all. So Chrystal, why don't you introduce yourself, give a little background on kind of what brought you to this journey, your backstory, and then kind of what you're doing right now with this, career path that you have taken that is really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm super excited about this conversation. So a little bit about me. So right now I'm a faith-based sobriety and life coach. And what has brought me to where I'm at today is really just going through my own journey. So I used to be somebody that just really struggled with binge drinking. And this was something that really just kind of happened over time where it was just like a habit. And, of course, the friends that I had around me, they drink like that too. So it was just like, yeah, this is normal. Right. And so this started when I was younger. So just kind of like went through that throughout the years. And there was many times where I questioned my relationship with alcohol, where I was just like, okay, well, let me maybe take a break or maybe switch from, the hard liquor to maybe beer or maybe just a glass of wine. So we played that game for a little while. Right. Which I guess not even sober curious, but really just trying to quote unquote moderate, which for the most part, that never really worked. I mean, maybe a few times here and there. And so long story short, continued, that behavior around alcohol. And I ended up getting into a relationship long term. It was about like 10, 11 years. And so during that relationship, he really struggled with addiction, with, heavier drugs and things like that. And so as you can imagine, that came with a lot of challenges. I had never experienced that before, had never really, been in a relationship like that, didn't really know how to navigate it. And so as things started to progress, as the longer that we were together, as his addiction progressed, I had one tool in my tool belt to cope, and that was alcohol. And so during the course of that relationship, I really started to use alcohol to cope and to escape. And during this time too, I really just found Jesus. Really, I found my faith. I'd always believed in God, but never really knew what it meant to fully have a relationship with Jesus, right? I had done church, done the things, but never really had that relationship with Jesus. And so I found a church at that time, and I was just kind of growing my relationship with God. And, I don't even think God really had to tell me, but it was obvious I had to leave that relationship, and he was already speaking to me about alcohol too. So long story short, ended up leaving the relationship after, closer to 11 years. And I remember thinking, I was like, okay, like he's the problem. So when we break up, I'm going to be able to officially just stop drinking. Everything's going to be so much better because again, like he's the problem. He's the reason why I'm drinking. Right. And so, and it actually was the opposite. So, we broke up and I started drinking more and more. And that's kind of like when I quote unquote hit my rock bottom, which I feel like even if I just look back, I'm like, yeah, there was actually quite a few rock bottoms, but that was my official rock bottom where I realized that I did not know how to manage my emotions, my triggers. I had found so much of my identity in who I was in that relationship. It was very codependent and in who I was with, when I drank. And so at that point that, I never was an everyday drinker, but the days that I was actually sober and alcohol free just kind of they became less and less. And so I remember a night after drinking one night, and of course overdid it, woke up hungover, and I remember sitting on my apartment floor looking out the window, and I was just like something has to change, because for the first time in my life, I actually felt like I was losing control, where I knew that if I did not stop right there and then, that I would become an everyday drinker, full-blown alcoholic, and who knows what that would have led to. And so after that, I was really close to my pastors at the church at that time, and called them up because they knew what was going on with me, and, the relationship and all of that. They held me accountable. I hired a sober coach. I hired a Christian therapist. I just went balls to the wall. I was like, we need to cover all the bases, because what I am doing clearly is just not working. And so I was already kind of doing coaching more like in the wellness space at this time. And so I was kind of the person that was, I would be really good Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, the weekend, I would just binge drink, eat all the crap, and so forth. And so I was already kind of in coaching, but just going through my journey, God has just really led me to where I'm at right now, which is really just helping women break out of the binge drinking cycle, or just really changing their relationship with alcohol and growing in their faith, and everything that comes with all of that too, because of course in between that, it's life and handling, again, like your emotions, your triggers, and all of that. So that's my story in a nutshell, and kind of what's led me to where I'm at today.
I think that's a powerful story. I mean, to speak to a relationship that's that long that you're getting out of, I mean, and it's really cool to see the evolution of what you kind of went, where you decided to find and ask for help and seek help. And I think that is powerful for anybody when you're like in a situation, that it's not a bad thing to ask for help and guidance, right? Because obviously,
absolutely,
trying to do it on your own was what was resulting in turning to a substance, as opposed to what else,
the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result.
Exactly. So what led you, like, obviously you had the journey, and what made you was that really kind of like, I know what's helping me and what's working, that's why I want to help other people? How did you kind of get to that next level?
I think it was just a slow process. Since I was already coaching, I already had a passion for helping people. And even at that point too, I was doing wellness, but I was also doing like sober challenges, but that was mainly for myself. I would just do them for free, and people would kind of, hop in with that. And I think just after I really found that freedom and realized the power of that and how it was helping me in every aspect of my life, like, a big piece of it was really growing in my faith. I felt like alcohol was like a wedge between me and God. And then I've been an entrepreneur for a while now. And so that was really affecting, my business at that time too. I was also doing, I was a lash artist as well. So I was doing that, coaching. And so, just trying to do all these things. And so I think after I realized the freedom, in Christ, and the freedom just in my life in general, and how it just progressed and was so much better afterwards, like, that's really what drove me to really help other people do the same, because I kind of felt like it was almost like a hidden gem, because like alcohol is just such a big part of society, and what people do for everything, like to celebrate when they're sad, when they're mad, like all the things.
Yep.
And so I just felt really called to just share my story, and to help other women with it, and also just in an alternative way too, because I know what's out there right now. And what was out there for me was going to AA, right? That's what, everybody gets directed towards, AA, which is, an amazing program for some, but it's not for everybody. And I think when it comes to the space of being a binge drinker, or just kind of being sober curious, I feel like there's definitely more support now. But back then, at that time, I didn't find any coaches that were faith-based, or even just talking about being sober curious. So I think God has just really led me to kind of fill in that gap too. And so that's what I'm really passionate about as well.
I love that. I think what's really cool to see is that sober curious phrase, for example, has become a trend. And it's something that I have even found on social media, where people are embracing an alcohol-free lifestyle. We've got so many kinds of mocktails out there, because there are, people want something special that's different than juice and soda and like the basic soda water or whatever, or the teas. And I think it's really cool movement to find, alcohol-free options or adaptogen drinks that kind of still give you a calming effect. They're not necessarily addictive or have a poor hangover experience afterwards, but it's kind of, I think that movement is really starting to explode. And I've certainly dabbled in it myself as far as like finding out like where is that balance for me. So when you
Right.
work with people, are there certain patterns that you're seeing that people consistently struggle with of why they're turning
Mhm.
to alcohol instead of dealing with those issues?
Yeah, I feel like one of the main things is definitely escaping and wanting to escape pain, wanting to escape the reality, which is very similar to what I was doing. I wanted to escape that reality and that pain of what was going on at that time. But also, I find it really common to be used as um, like for self-medicating for anxiety and stress. Those are two big ones, and that's what I kind of see the common theme. And so really what I do with my clients is we really just kind of dig a little deeper beneath the surface of that and just really find healthier coping mechanisms, because at the end of the day, alcohol is always going to be like the easiest option, right? And of course, if you've trained your brain to go to that as a solution, right? But at the end of the day, there are so many other things that we can do instead to alleviate anxiety, alleviate stress, and really alcohol just is fuel to those things anyways. So that's what I would say is like the common things that I do see when people do come to me and why they're drinking.
Mhm. For people who are wanting to remove it from their life, do you feel like
Mhm.
there's a certain timeline that people have? Is there like this window that seems realistic to accomplish, complete sobriety? I don't know if that question really makes sense. I think you know where I'm
Yeah.
going with that. Just kind of like how long would it take somebody to kind of figure that new lifestyle out?
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I feel like the timelines I feel like can put a lot of pressure on people sometimes. And so I'm not really huge on timelines, but I guess if I was to say like what's a good amount of time to actually start establishing some habit, I
Mhm.
would say about 3 months. However, I will say this, like when it comes to letting go of any toxic habit or anything that's just really hindering your life in any negative way, that's kind of, obviously in my situation, that was really hard for me to let go of. Um, there's other things that are going to come up. So yes, you can develop those, those life skills, and you can remove the alcohol. But again, it goes back to like what's underneath the surface. Why was it so hard for you to let go of alcohol? What are you really searching for? And just really looking at, okay, how do I want to live my life, and really aligning your actions with your core values, things like that. And so what I've noticed, like when people go along their journey, that's kind of like the first step. And then usually a lot of people have to deal with um, like trauma, like just different
Mhm.
emotional triggers and all of that. And so, but as far as like the basic habits of removing it, I would say, yeah, maybe about 3 months actually, establishing those habits. And again, it really just varies per person, because sometimes for people, depending on where you're at, like whether you're sober curious or, a big binge drinker like I was, like your journey can look totally different. And some people just flow through it, and some people really struggle to let go of it. So it really just
Mhm.
depends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's helpful to kind of have an idea of what somebody could think if they're, starting the journey, what is that timeline? Because sometimes I agree
Mhm.
with you. Like it's same thing in health and fitness. Like it's hard to have an artificial timeline, putting a bunch of pressure on yourself that's not
Right.
realistic long term or what's sustainable.
Mhm.
So with the theme of obviously our mission, with Work in Progress Texas is helping people lose weight, keep it off. We certainly find that alcohol can be one of those things that gets in the way from success. And it's certainly one that
Yeah.
I can own up to, that for me, like last year, I definitely let alcohol like into my life too much to deal with the stressors that I was dealing with. And then
Mhm.
derailing me and my progress, because you just feel so sluggish and miserable. It zaps your energy. It's just,
Yeah.
there's so many other like physical down. Well, I can't talk today for some reason. It's like the
It's
physical,
okay.
like
Story of my
no,
life.
exactly right. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
But like it's just this vicious cycle, and it just zaps
Yeah.
so much out of your body, your minerals, your
Mhm.
gut health, your energy. Like there are so many more cons than pros, but the pros still kind of matter, right? Like the social
Yeah.
experience, the going wine tasting is fun. Like there's things that can be
Right.
enjoyable. And there is an art to alcohol too, right? Like brewing and
Mhm.
creating things. And, when you go to a really fancy schmancy restaurant and they make a cool cocktail, like there's an experience with that too. So there's like
Right.
some fun, but in the sense of like fat loss and weight loss and health,
Mhm.
what do you feel like your top tips are for somebody who's like, you know what, I really want to find a better balance. I don't know, I don't want this in my life every single day, but I know that once I start, it's hard to stop. So, what are some simple kind of principles that maybe you would guide somebody to focus on to create those new habits that you talked about?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like a lot of this too is mindset and perspective. And so I think, which I know, you can resonate with this too, like when it comes to losing weight and things like that, it's like sometimes we can look at what we're missing out on or what we can't have, right? And so I think really shifting the perspective too and kind of looking at this as like a new adventure, right? Really just getting curious about why you drink the way you do, really just getting curious and just being like, okay, you know what, maybe, alcohol is actually causing me more inflammation. Alcohol is actually hindering me from my weight loss goals. What would it look like to just take a break from it? Because I feel like, again, going back to that pressure, I feel like sometimes, especially when it comes to alcohol, and I feel like we feel like it's like, oh my gosh, am I never going to be able to drink again? Or like we just kind of build up this thing in our head. And I think just allowing yourself to take away the power from alcohol, just allow yourself to experience a new experience is really helpful. So really shifting that perspective. And then I think just really asking yourself too, like going back to those core values, like how do you want your life to look? Because you have control over that. And I think so often we can say, okay, well, I value my health, I value energy, I value my faith, and the list goes on. But when we actually look at our life and how we're living, do those actions actually align with that? And so I find that that helps a lot of my clients too. And again, relieving that pressure and just kind of being like, okay, well, alcohol is hindering me in this area. So let's kind of, take a break from that or limit that a little bit. And that also helps in other things in your life too, just kind of looking at every area in your life. So that's what I would say with that. And then, of course, there's always mocktails, like you said, like just and again, I feel like it goes back to like just having that curiosity and trying new things, like having fun, like even how you shared where, it's fun to go, with the breweries and the wineries and things like that. And I am excited that they're actually making more like sober bars and so, just sober options, which is so cool. But I think just allowing yourself to have fun with that, right? So creating that experience for yourself at home or with friends, like, finding more people around you too that don't necessarily need to drink to have fun too. So that's what I would kind of say with that.
That's
Kind of get us
powerful
started.
too. Yeah, no, I mean, I think sometimes we do in so many situations when we've got certain goals or things we're trying to accomplish, you do have to look at your circle. And
Mhm.
that can be really, really hard when you've got good friends or family members that have that a part of their life, because no matter what, like for some reason, there's still this peer pressure that happens with alcohol where people abstain from
Mhm.
it and they're teased or made fun of, or there's a joke or it's pushed on them. And you're kind of like, I don't understand that. Like, even as somebody who has enjoyed beverages, I just would, if somebody said they just like, oh, I don't want to drink, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I would never like
Right.
push or pressure somebody like, come on, just do it. Like, I
I
can't relate
know.
to that, but obviously it shows the other insecurities within other people that if somebody's being, choosing this direction, it's hard for them to
Mhm.
accept because maybe that's something that they've been curious about too. So it like turns into like this thing you have to kind of tiptoe around sometimes, which is
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's really interesting too. And honestly, I feel like in some ways too, it can relate to your health and wellness journey too. Cause I know like when I first started, my health and wellness journey, started eating healthier and doing all the things, like it's like, how you get the looks and it's like, oh, you're too good, or you know what I mean? And so I feel
Mhm.
like even again, just like taking that power away from alcohol and being like, you know what, people are always going to have something to say if you are doing something better with your life, because it shines a light on what they're not doing. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that's just like such an important thing to know, which you kind of shared that already, kind of mentioned that. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that I agree. I'm glad that you're reflecting on that too and highlighting that because I just think it's so funny. I feel like the health and wellness world can relate to so many things in life, like goals with careers or the alcohol journey or
Yeah.
other things, because there's just so much to it because people within a health journey are experiencing the same kinds of issues, people teasing
Hmm.
them, they've got things that they want to be a part of, things they feel like they're missing out on things,
Yeah.
and just trying to keep your focus and the eye on the prize. And that's why coaching and support and accountability plays a role.
Absolutely.
So do you have any kind of like final thoughts as far as on this topic of sobriety or alcohol that you would want to share with this community?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say if you are, if anybody is like sober curious, or maybe, you're just like, okay, like I know I probably should at least like try to take a break from alcohol, just kind of tying into what you just said, like, don't be afraid to ask for help, getting accountability, even if it's just for a short amount of time, even if you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break for a month or 2 weeks, whatever that is. If you've already tried it on your own and it's just not working, and it's hindering your health, it's hindering your faith, it's, whatever it's hindering, just allow yourself and give yourself permission to get help, and know that that doesn't mean anything negative about you. That just means that you're trying to get ahead and you're trying to just make your life better, and that's okay. Um, and then, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I think just really, like I said, getting curious. So if you're questioning your relationship with alcohol, just asking yourself these different questions, like, so I feel like a lot of the times too, like if we go deeper beneath the surface, there's something that we're searching for or something that we're trying to escape. And so just really getting curious, asking yourself those questions and just reflecting, and then moving on from there, and just giving yourself grace along the process. Because I feel
Mm.
like, especially if we get to that space where it's like, if you're stuck in the binge drinking cycle and you feel like, oh gosh, like I shouldn't be drinking like this, but just knowing that, this is a process. And again, just kind of looking at it as a new adventure, as a new experience, and just, again, like taking away the power from alcohol and just kind of bringing it back to you. And, yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, it's just something I want to highlight it, because I feel like it can be like a heavy load sometimes, and
Mhm.
making these changes, whether it's with fitness or, taking a break from alcohol. And I just like, that's one thing that I really try to do with my clients, is just really try to simplify it and just lighten the load, so you can actually like experience this and grow from it. So I think that would be
Yeah.
my, yeah.
No, I love that because I think the beautiful thing about when you decide to make these kinds of changes, these health changes, whether it's alcohol, really trying to remove it from your life for good. I've got many friends in this community that I've been very blessed to get to know that don't drink. And it actually is refreshing. It was so refreshing to have a
Yes.
friendship circle that just didn't, because then it was just so much easier to abstain from it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think asking for help is so valuable, like even for a short period of time. And thankfully
Hmm.
too, when you start to make these changes, your body actually responds. Things start to happen if you can just give it the break that
Yes.
it needs, so that your
Hmm.
mind can get clear again, your spirit, your faith, your
Absolutely.
whatever. What you do have quick wins pretty quickly, even if there's going to be
Yeah.
a relapse, even if there's some things down the road, you're going to be able to notice that. Because even when we've abstained from alcohol, we know when we overdo it, it hurts so much more, to where you're like, okay, it's like making me feel even worse. So it's easier to abstain from it when it makes me feel
Right.
worse.
Yeah,
So I love
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Well, in the spirit of like obviously helping people and accountability, I know that you
Mhm.
had potentially a special offer for people who might be interested in
Yeah.
working with you. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us what that might look like for somebody who's interested.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually put together just two little packages for this specifically. So I put together a 2 week package and a 4 week package, because I feel like that's a good, starter wherever, just kind of meeting people where they are at. And so the special that I kind of put together was 2 weeks of one-on-one coaching, because like we talked about, accountability and mentorship is just so helpful. And so that special for 2 weeks is at 197. And then I have a 4 week one-on-one coaching for 297. And then also I have a new membership that I just started called the Sober Alliance Academy. And so with that, I want to give whoever signs up for either one of these packages 1 month free to that, which also includes just trainings to really help you start your alcohol-free journey, sustain it. We go through different mindset, pieces, shifting your perspective, kind of a little bit what we did today. And that's open for you to ask questions, all that good stuff too. So that's what I have for you guys today. So
Awesome. Well, that is so
yeah.
generous. We really appreciate that. I wanted people to make sure they get to meet you and hear with you, and
Yeah.
connect you with the right people who might need your help. I appreciate that you are doing that for our community. Thank you so much.
Yes. No. And thank you for having me. Yeah.
I appreciate that so much. I'm going to pause the recording, and then I'm going to check into the live comments, because usually when we do these
Okay.
interviews, I always like, I can't, I'm too ADD to
Oh
juggle
yeah.
both, but
Girl, same.
yeah, exactly. Right. So thanks everybody for watching the YouTube version of
Yes.
this. And obviously you guys can reach out to us. I will put contact information in the caption, so you guys can reach out if you are interested in getting coaching with Chrystal. I'll make sure we have good contact information. So hope
Yes.
you guys have a great day or night, whatever time of day you're watching this. So thank you so much.